1,000, 2,000. All right, we're just counting down. Get a little topo here. Tasty. Two minutes. About a minute and a half. Hello, Matthew Platts. You'll be here briefly. You are epleb incognito. Nice. Thanks for saying hi. We're going to be looking at Genesis chapter 1, verse 17 through 20 or 21, maybe. In about 50 seconds. Ish seconds. Co-host on Friday, Angular, is sitting right here playing video games with a friend, like 2 feet away. All right, let's get this intro going. Transition.
Welcome to the 9dNation.
בראשית ברא אלוהים את השמיים ואת הארץ.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Thousands of years later, it was Wednesday at 11 p.m. Central. Get your passport ready and be prepared to declare to the customs agents any edible plants or miscellaneous worldviews. You're now crossing into the nation with no denomination.
All right, I am your host, G. Ross, on the Nation with No Denomination. Actually, talking a second ago in chat with Matthew Platts, I'm going to be turning off the YouTube portion of the stream soon. I'll explain why here in a second. Your old art pin name, Gotch, was already used. Used like the town bicycle. Yeah. All right, I'll stay on YouTube while you're there, but we like to ban YouTube because they gave us a warning for something. I forget what. But anyway, when I see you're gone, I'm going to turn off YouTube. But first, I should tell people where to go besides YouTube. You can find G. Ross, the channel, easily on the foxhole.app. Here, let me put a link to that. Where is that? So there's one place you can find us. Also, DLive and Facebook. Somehow they haven't warned us yet. All right, this is season 2 of 9dNation. We're on episode 4. I don't think I would call this a Bible study. It's more just hanging out in the Word. But yeah, until I see you somewhere else, Nista, I'll keep this channel on. Oh, let me put in the chat. This is the content that they warned me about. They're like, oh, you get one warning and you're doomed. Here, let me share it in all the chats. There's a link to, so something in there was offensive. I don't know what. It's all mainstream news articles. Probably I said something I shouldn't have. Also, let's see. Here's the gilded link. I've never seen anyone try this or complain that it doesn't work, so I don't know if it's of interest, but here's for all of our shows encourage call-ins at all times. Until such time as that becomes an issue, which hopefully it never would. But I mean, I think, if a show caught on and got really popular, you couldn't just have open channel constantly. All right. So, not really a Bible study. This is now the 4th episode. Just go through 4, 5, or 6 verses per week, just looking at the Hebrew, knowing nothing about Hebrew, just looking at it. So, let me tell you, if you missed the first 3 episodes, which are recorded on the Foxhole. Here's what we got. Elohim, this is verse 1 through 16. Elohim makes sky and dirt, darkness over the deep, spirit over the waters. Elohim says, light shall be, and be day, and divided from night. A firmament should be. It gets stretched out to divide sky water from water. Now named land should dry by water flow. The water will flow to sea. Earth sprouts seeding seed plants and fruiting fruit trees on day 3. Candle-type lights in heaven should be to divide out the day and the night chunks, and to label appointments, days in years, and to shine on earth. God fashions the day luminary, the night luminary, and the other star luminaries. That's what we've had so far. Essentially, I just created the Greg Ross translation, so it's probably totally heretical and hideous. Could just read a good translation, but this is just like what 3 weeks of this had kind of put together. So let's jump into verse 17. One moment. Oh, we lost a lurker on the Foxhole. So be it. Come, Patsy. See how our lurking is on. Okay, we still got someone on YouTube, so I won't kill YouTube just yet. I mean, I don't think I've said anything offensive yet. But I might talk about the Earth not being a spinning ball hurling through space. I don't think that'll get me. Yeah, live on all the other channels. Yeah, if you... Yeah. So if you go to the foxhole.app or Facebook or DLive. DLive, it's... Let me find my DLive channel. DLive. It's probably easy to get to. I mean, I would kind of push the foxhole.app just as my personal favorite. It's probably easy to get to. Oh yeah, D Live is pretty. I mean, I would. Whoops. D Live. Let me link that. All right. Anyway. Okay, so verse 17. Oops. There we go. Verse 17 in New American Standard. God placed them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth. So remember, we just said he made the sun, the moon, and the stars. God placed them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth. So now let's dig into why they say that's what it says. I'll attempt to butcher the Hebrew here real quick. That's my favorite part, right? Just go butcher the Hebrew. That doesn't sound right to say. Poorly pronounce the language. Vayitin otam Elohim birkia hashemayim lahal al haaretz. So Vayitin is from the word Nautan or Nathan, which is to give or to put or to set. So it's like to leave it there. Like, I'm going to put you guys here and I'm going to go over there. So it's like you bring it to a place and leave it. Like you're putting it by hand. You bring it over to and say, it's where you belong. It's like putting your keys in the bowl that you keep, near the door or whatever. Otam, the next word is just a conjunction, and it refers back to the luminaries in verse 16. So there's now a heaven Rakia. So let's look back at Hashemayim and Rakia, because he says, the translation, firmament of the heavens. So he's saying Birkia Hashemayim. He's saying Birkiam Hashemayim. So the Rakia, if you remember from verse 8, is spoken into existence. It's like, let there be an expanse, right? Or let there be a firmament. And then it gets expanded in that banging out way that the gold platist, like that the blacksmith does. I think that was episode 2. And it's used to separate the waters above and the waters below. That's going back to Genesis 1:8. And Elohim names that thing the Rakia Shemayim. Then you see in verse 14, Birkia Hashemayim, or the sky water holding plate. And then exactly the same way again in verse 15 and here in 17. So in verse 8, it's Rakia Shemayim. And then in 14, 15, and 17, it's Birkia Hashemayim. So let's look at 8, 14, 15, and 17 and see how they translate that. So 8, firmament, sky. So he called the firmament sky. And then 14, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens. So the Birkia Hashemayim. 15, let them be for lights in the Birkia Hashemayim. So, I don't know. It is what it is. All right, let's check the chat, see how we're doing. Doing good. All right. And then, just reading. Okay. Then we see Lahaler. So I'm now on this word here. To shine. Lahaler. Not sure how to pronounce that. Go back a couple verses to 6:15. And it's from the word that means to be light or to become light. So how does something become light? Like if it's a stick or a candle, it burns, right? And then it just becomes light. Is there some other way to be or become light? I haven't thought of one. So it's just reinforcing that sort of candlelight is what I keep coming back to. So the sun, the moon, and the stars are all of a category called light givers or light burners. You know, they are or become light. So let's summarize verse 17. We're talking about the luminaries. God moved them over to and stuck them in the skywater plate so that it would shine like fire does onto earth. If you weren't here for the episode or two where I convinced you that the firmament is a skywater holding plate, I guess go back and watch them. I would love to talk about it again and more and constantly and nonstop and become Rob Skiba. But I'm going to move on. So the sun and the moon and the stars are all in the category of light. Oh, I said that already. Sorry. So let's put it all together. Verse 1 through 17. Elohim makes sky and dirt. Darkness is over the deep. Spirit is over the waters. Daylight should be divided from dark, which is called night. Sky plate will be stretched by God to hold sky water over water. Land is separated from sea by way of water flow. Day 3, you got seeds and fruits. Candle-type lights in the heaven mark out the day and the night for appointments, days and years. God fashions the sun, moon, and stars, or luminaries, moves them over to and sticks them in the skywater plate so they shine down onto earth. Shall we move to verse 18? Let me check our chats, see how things are going. Going all right. Getting good grades. Light givers. Luminaries. So, Nista, have you picked up that I'm kind of skeptic about the classic space model? You've known me... Wait, which episode? 2 or 3. So, the first episode, we got to verse like 6 or something. And then we got verse 7 or 8 or whatever for the second episode, got all into the firmament. And I just couldn't help myself. I got all flat earth about it. This is something you may not know about me. In the last, 6 years, I got kind of flatty earthy. Anyway, let's go to verse 18. Verse 18. Okay. Let's go to the NAS. And to govern the day and the night, and to separate the light from the darkness, and God saw that it was good. Can we jump into the Hebrew? Let's attempt to say some of this. Velim shol bayom uvalela ulahavdil bin haur ubin hachosek bayar Elohim kitob. We've seen a lot of these phrases already. Mashal, where you get the Velim shol, is to rule, have dominion or reign over. It's a pretty straightforward word. Then the next word there is bayom. That's got the root word for day, yom. So, and then uvalela comes from layela, which is night. And this is the 4th time we've seen night used in Genesis chapter 1 so far. So I won't spend a ton of time on that. Badal, that's to be divided, separate. And we've seen this is now the 5th time in the word ulahavdil. It's just like in Genesis 1:4, he says, bin hawar ubin hachosek. So between and between. So this struck me, and I'll repeat this. You're not taking the thing and chopping it in half to create day and night. The linguistic structure here, to me, looks like it says bin hawar ubin hakosek. So it's like saying between the day and between the night. So it's like you're creating two chunks. It's like there's two distinct things. So it's not like cutting a thing in half. It is that, but it's like cutting out a thing and cutting out another thing. Why that's important to me, I don't know, but I keep sticking on that. And then verse 4, 10, and 12 have already said, Vayar Elohim Kitob. Let me scroll down a little bit here. Vayar Elohim Kitob. And God saw that it was good. So put all that together and rule the day and the night and separate light from dark, and God sees it's good. So now let me add that on to the paragraph we had so far. Elohim makes sky and dirt. Darkness is over the deep. Spirit is over the waters. Daylight shall be divided from night dark. Sky plate stretched by God to hold sky water over water. Land separated from sea by water flow. Grains, fruits. Candle-type lights in heaven marking out the day and the night for appointments, days, and years. God fashions the luminaries, sun, moon, and stars, moves them over to and sticks them in the sky water plate so they shine onto the earth and rule the day and the night and separate the light from the dark, and God sees it's good. So I asked this question when I was at this point. How do you need luminaries to separate light from dark? I don't think I have a good answer to that. I don't even know what I meant by that question. Let's look at verse 19. But first, let me do a round of checking the chats. By a lurker. One of our lurkers left. That's okay. It's okay. Yeah, I see Matthew Platt says, no. Neil Adams tectonics. Yes. Hey, Neil Adams is quite an interesting cat, huh? Yeah, we'll get into that. Not to worry. Not to worry, I don't think. Maybe worry. I don't think Neil Adams said the earth was flat, though. He said it was just growing in size. Verse 19. Let's go to verse 19. Bing, bing, bing. Let's go to the... There was evening, there was morning, a fourth day. Let's go to the Hebrew. Vahi Ereb, Vahi Boker, Yom Reveal. Yom Reveal. See if I read that right. Vahi Ereb, Vahi Boker, Yom Reveal. So, we already saw there was morning, there was evening, day 1. There was morning, there was evening, day 2. There was morning, there was evening, day 3. This morning there was evening, day 4. So, it's just part of the poetry of how it was, you see a lot of these, what was that one we saw in the last one? Let's go back. Wait, let's go forward. There's a lot of repetition, like Vayar Elohim Kitob. You hear that a lot. Let there be, stuff like that. So let's go to 20. Look at the NAS. Then God said, let the waters teem with swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth in the open expanse of the heavens. Let's look at the Hebrew here. I'll zoom out a little bit. Might be hard to read, just to fit a little more in the screen for a second. All right, I'm going to try to read this. Vayomer Elohim yeshritzu hamayim sheretz nefesh chaya vayof Yeofev al haaretz al peni rekia hashemayim. All right, there's some familiar words there. Let's go through them in order. Yeshritzu, well, Vayomer Elohim, we've seen that phrase many times already. God said. So Vayomer Elohim, let me zoom back in. So Vayomer Elohim, God said, like he's been saying. Then we got Yeshritzu, that comes from Sharatz. Let me click. I've been kind of avoiding this, just laziness. Let's look at. So to swarm or to team. I like to kind of like later on. He's describing. Let's look a little further. Psalms, the land swarmed with frogs. Everything that swarms creeps. Talking about things you can, eat, I guess. Things that swarm or creep. So we can stick with that. Swarm, team. And then the next word. So Yeshritzu and then Sheretz. So these two words kind of similar sounding. So we just looked at Sharatz. Let's look at the next word. Sheretz. So it's like Sharatz, Hashemayim, Sheretz. That's not how it's conjugated or whatever. It specifically says Yishuretsu Hamayim. Oh, sorry, I said Hashemayim earlier. Hamayim Sheretz. But kind of similar words, the abounding and the abundance. So teeming with teeming. Swarming with swarming. And then we know Hamayim from earlier. That's waters. So swarm, let the waters swarm with swarms of nefesh. So if you Google around a little bit, you can see that this comes from an older Semitic word for soul, for throat. And I had heard that, but I can't really, it's not really talked about in the biblical scholar circles that much. But some people will point out the word for nefesh comes from the word for throat. And actually, if you look at, here, let's look at this concordance. It does mention appetite and desire and passion. So I don't see speech there or bleeding, like making noises with your throat. But I do see the appetite here in this definition. So I have, ever since I heard that, I've thought of nefesh as being like a throat, so it's a mouth to feed. You buy a dog or buy a cat, you got another nefesh, right? There's another soul. There's another thing living. I'm not saying whether dogs have souls, but here, the concordance, it says nefesh is a soul or a living being. It's a flexible word, right? All right, so let me go back to my notes. Let me check the chat for a second, see how it's going. Flat Earth, no. Like my belly. Reading in the YouTube chat. All right. Back to my notes. All right, so Yeshritzu, swarm and team. Sheretz, swarmers or swarming things. Nefesh, the soul, we talked about that. Chai or Che, Chai, I think. That's alive. Something weird that was in the, let's see, living. So, yeah. Chaya, I guess is how that's pronounced. This concordance weirded me out because it says age, which I don't get, but then it says it's alive for the definition. So I don't know. I don't know what that means. I'm just going to use alive. So let the waters with an abundance of creatures. What kind of creatures? Like, what kind of creatures could there be? Oh, living creatures. I don't know how they're going to swarm if they're dead. Or are they toys? Are they like wind-up toys? Like robots? Like, I was sitting there thinking, why is the story told this way? You know, why, you know, you're reading this to your kids, let's say. You're reading the old scroll. Like, why would you say alive creatures? Did they have robots back then? Drones? Sims? I'm not sure. Toys? Maybe the kids would have carved up little fake giraffes. And so they're like, oh, this is the water. Little fake dolphins. So anyway, then we get to Vayof. That comes from the word oaf, which is flying creatures. That's pretty much birds and bats, right? Or is it? It's winged. Let's look at the concordance for that. Vayop. It's going to tell us flying creatures with kind of a sense of winged creatures. Probably not bats. Maybe. Who knows? So, winged creatures that fly. So, it's kind of the same root word, or similar. Let's look at them back to back. Oh no, it's a similar. It means to fly, and then it's flying creatures. So it's more that sort of seeding seed plants and fruiting fruit trees, flying flyers, you know, or swarming swarmers. It's kind of neat. It's kind of poetic when you look at it. So it's Veof and Yeofef. Birds that fly. Let the birds fly. Now here comes an interesting thing, and it's going to get us into that flat earth for a second. Al Haaretz al Penei Rakia Hashamayim. So, where do the birds fly? They fly above the earth, and same word as above, the face of the sky firmament, or the heaven water plate, the Hashamayim, or the waters above, the Rakia, the stretched out firmament. So the birds are flying all the earth and all the face of the sky firmament. So I can only think of two ways that the birds are flying. Above the earth and above the sky water plate, holding plate. You know, the sky water plate bowl thing. Or maybe the word all means above the earth and up against the face of the firmament of the sky. I think those are the two options. I've thought about that, you know, for the last couple of days. I need to become a Hebrew expert because al is the key word here. It means upon, above, or over. So just like in English, it's a pretty flexible preposition, right? Let's look at all these examples. There's a ton. You know, so about, above, in accordance, addition, against. So the birds are something in the relation to the earth, and that same something into the relation to the sky firmament. So I think it could be either this and they also fly here, or this and this. So they're flying above the earth, or, you know, against the face of the earth and against the face of the sky water plate. I don't know. Stop at that. I'll stop at that. Let's put it all together. Let's see. Swarm, swarm. So the flowers fly, the swarm, swarm. Pene. That word pene was the same that we saw earlier, the face of the deep, where the darkness was over the pene of the deep. And we already talked about Rakia Hashemayim in prior weeks. It's the firmament of the waters above. So let's summarize this verse. Waters swarm swarms of hungry throats to feed that are alive, and flyers fly over the earth and against the surface of Thunderdome. It's not really Thunderdome. I just kept saying, Skywater plate in my notes, so finally I just wrote Thunderdome. Just gave in to the impulse. Let's put it all together. Elohim makes sky and dirt, darkness over the deep, spirit over the waters, says daylight shall be divided from night dark. Sky plate stretched by God to hold sky water over water, land separated from sea by water flow, grains, fruits, luminaries in heaven, marking out the day and the night for appointments, days and years. God fashions the sun, moon, and stars, plops them in the sky water plate, poink, so they shine onto the earth and rule the day and the night, separate light from dark. God sees it's good. Water swarms of hungry, living, bleeding swarmers. Flyers fly over earth and over sky plate. Over in quotes. Up against sky plate. Let me check the chat. Just get bored and change jobs because I'm an expert at it too. You will learn Hebrew too. That's true. That's true, Matthew Platts. I mean, I'm just sitting here learning it here on this show, right? Like just slowly over time. We're all going to become Hebrew, conversational, ancient Hebrewites. So that was as far as I had gotten this week. I skipped last week, by the way, because I was on vacation. I was driving or traveling, hanging out in Florida, having driven there. But I kind of want to squeeze one more in, maybe two, just because it's only been a half hour. All right. And God created the great sea creatures and every living creature that moves, with which the waters swarmed according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. All right, let's jump in. Vayibra Elohim et Hataninim Hegedolim Vayet Kal Nefesh. How do you pronounce this one? Hachaya. Oh, we saw that word a minute ago. Haromeset Aser Sharetzu Hamayim Laminahim. Sorry. Vuet Kal Op Kanaf Limanehu Vayar Elohim Kitob. All right. So created. Just like in Genesis 1, created the heavens. So now we're at the sea monsters. So at the level of how in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, now we're getting that word root again, created the sea monsters. Who did? Elohim. Now, let's look at this sea creatures. See how monstrous they really are. Serpent, dragon, sea monster. I bet you this shows up in Job. Yep. So that's a big sea monster. Let's not overlook that. So created God the sea monsters. It even says great. Gadol. You remember Nes Gadol Hashim, a great miracle happened there? We've seen this in, the sun. The sun is the Gadol luminary. Yeah, that's right. Cool. So, Vayibra Elohim et Hataninim Hagadolim, the great sea creatures, and Vuet Kal Nefesh, every soul, every creature, every mouth to feed. We saw this in the last verse, the living, and every living thing. And we saw, did we see Haromeshet? No, it's to creep lightly Creature that moves, which the waters. We're going to use this same word that creeps on earth when we get to verse 26. Have we seen with which before? Yeah. So in separating the waters which were above and the waters which were below, and the seeds which have seed, and then we've used it again here, Genesis 1:21. Seems like a pretty good translation, with which. Aser. Abounded, sharetsu. We saw that in the last verse. It's very repetitive of the prior verse, right? Let the waters sharats with sharetsu, basically. With which they abound. Hamayim, we've seen that a million times. That's the waters. Remember in the very first it said the darkness was over the face of the deep and the Spirit was over the Hamayim, the waters. And we've seen limonahim according to their kind, just like the seeds seeded and the fruits fruited. We saw that there. Let's double check that. I don't want to steer you wrong. Yeah. The fruit with the seed after its kind, and the grass seeds, or yeah, just the fruit. Fruit in kind. And then vu'et kal, I didn't look at kal, every, the whole, all. So no exceptions, right? So there's a hint here that says, I know you're going to take this story and you're going to go still think that Tammuz and somebody else created some other things. No, they're saying Elohim created it all, right? That's what I get the sense from this being mentioned twice. Every sea creature. Every sea creature? Every sea creature. What about every sea creature? No exceptions, right? That's kind of the sense you get, I think. So it said Kal up here. Every living thing and every. And we saw this in the prior, the oaf, the bird. Kanaf. That's a new version of winged from kanaf. Well, it's still got it's got that F sound. It's the extremity, the wing, but not flight wing, more like the span, right? The far outstretched. Kanaf. Limenehu. Yeah, we talked about that a second ago. That's the seeds. I clicked on that. And to close it off, like has happened several times so far, Vayar Elohim Kitob. All right, let's put it all together. The word created has not shown up like this since verse 1, so that's kind of important. God created the great and all sea creatures and sea swarmers. Let me write that down here on my notes. God created the great and all the sea swarmers. Okay. How to mess it. What was that from? That was from the teaming? No. That move. It's interesting. It's starting to move into that. Capable to move. Different than swarming. I don't know what that means. That's interesting. There's a difference between swarming and creeping. But we're creeping in the waters. So that move. So I'll write it down that way. Swarmers that move. And was this the teaming word? Sharetsu. I think this was teaming. Yeah. That move teaming in waters. Yeah, Hamayim. Limonahim, according to kind. By kind. And all the winged birds. And God saw it was good. All right. Now let's see, verse 21. Now let's put all that together. Elohim makes sky and dirt, darkness over the deep, spirit over the waters. Daylight shall be divided from night dark. Sky plate stretched by God to hold sky water over water. Land separated from sea by water flow. Grains, fruits, luminaries in heaven mark out the day and the night. For appointments, days, and years. God fashions the sun, moon, and stars, plops them in the sky water plate so they shine down onto the earth and rule the day and the night, separating light from dark, and God sees it's good. I'm going to remove that. Water swarms. Swarms of hungry, living, bleeding swarmers. I'm going to get rid of bleating. Flyers fly over the earth and over the sky plate. And then we learned God created sea monsters, let's say, and all moving sea swarmers by type or kind, and all birds God saw was good. Okay. All right. I had to do that because I didn't prepare verse 21. Should we do another verse? Let me check the chat. See how things are going. Holding steady. All right. Yeah, we'll see. We'll do one more. 22. Verse 22. God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth." Okay. Interesting. Now let's go into the Hebrew. Vevarek otam Elohim lemor peru urevu umilu et hamayim bayamim behauf yirev baaretz. Okay. Blessed. I think this is the first time we've seen blessed in Genesis. Yep. Barak. That's an interesting word, isn't it? To kneel. To kneel. Nista says, yep, okay. To kneel. So if somebody kneels, they're blessing. So they're showing deference to, maybe? So is God kneeling to them? I mean, we know eventually he kneels to, you know, he does obedience to the point of the cross, right? To the point of death, even the cross. And that's to redeem those that he wanted to pursue, right? So him kneeling is a blessing, but is that what he's doing here? I don't know. Let's think about that. Let's look at some uses. You bless the seventh day. Bless my master. So it's like a hearty, happy greeting. Just kind of glancing through some of these uses. It's interesting that it comes from kneeling or blessing. Like in English, those are two totally separate words, right? All right, so Barak. So Vaybarak or Vayvarek. Vayvarak. Otam, that's them. We've seen this a couple times before verses 1, 4, 7, and 16. It's kind of like a, what's that? It's an untranslatable mark of the accusative case. So he blessed them, Elohim did, saying, okay, so what's this word? Saying. Amar, that's the same word that is used to say, like, let there be light. So, same word. Lamor. Peru, that's the same word that the fruiting fruit trees fruited, right? Urevu, I don't think we've seen that word yet. Urevu, yeah, to multiply. Be or become much, many or great. Increase. Let's look at some uses here. After a lot of time, right? So quantity. Ask. It can be used to mean ask. Huh. How does that work? How does that get... now I'm curious. Hang on. Let's look this up. Ask. Is it really? Harbu. Huh. To be or become great. Ask me ever so much dowry and gift. So maybe here it's like charge me, great me. Huh, I don't know. Here in about a year when I get to Genesis chapter 34, or 5 years from now, we'll cover that again. All right, so, but Lamor, uttering. Remember, Amar had kind of a sense of uttering. Must go good night. Matthew Platt says, see you next episode. See you next week, brother. Thanks for hanging out. So, Peru, be fruitful. Lamor, Peru. Urevu, that's the word we just, that's multiply. Umiliu, never saw that before. Mala, it's the first time we've used it. To fill, accomplish, yeah, like filling a bowl maybe, overflowing, fullness, filling a skin of water like filling a bowl, filling a jar. All right. And when the days were accomplished, right? When the days were full, when it was time. All right, I'll go with that. Hamayim, we've seen that word a million times. That's the waters as opposed to the deep. Bayamim. It's the first time we've seen this word. The seas. No, right. It's when the gather. Sorry, I forgot that. So when the water flowed to dry the land, it created the seas. So the earth, the land and the sea. All right, so we're seeing that word again. Bayamim, in the seas. So fill the water in the seas. Not necessarily the water anywhere else, but it goes to the seas. You know, we saw in verse 10 that it collects, it flows to the sea. And then the birds, I think we saw this word. The oafs, yeah. We saw this 2 sentences ago. The birds. Yireb. Did we see that word yet? No, it's the first time. No, it's the, right. Yeah, it's the same root as Yirebu. So Yireb. Ba'aretz. And we know Haaretz is earth. So this will be on the earth. Let's check out. Yeah. All right, cool. So now let's put all that together. So in a deferential or transferring as a gift to, like kneeling and blessing, right? So blessed them, Elohim, uttering, be fruity, and increase or multiply or become great. if one creature was going to become great, they would have to get larger, but it can't get larger. It's just making more of itself, right? And fill up the waters that collect in the seas. And birds increase on the earth. All right, let's write that down. Elohim. So let's think about this too. He blessed them. How did he bless them? By saying to them. Notice he utters, here's what you should do. So is he giving them autonomy? I'm not a big believer in autonomy, but it kind of has this indication there, doesn't it? Be fruitful and multiply. If he didn't say that, would they be fruitful and multiply? Are they designed to be fruitful and multiply? Or does he have to say it, right? So all this creation is done by saying and hammering out and placing the lights. So, I don't know. So he blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the sea waters, the Hamayim Bayamim, and the birds multiply on the earth. So there's still no land creatures. All right, let me write all this down since I didn't write this down before. So, verse 22. Elohim blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply. So, Elohim knelt, blessed them by way of saying, be fruity, meaning exude that fruitfulness. Become greater, meaning multiply. Fill the sea waters, the waters in the seas, and birds multiply on the earth. Why do they multiply on the earth? Ba'aretz, the earth. How do we know it's on? It's probably that ba. Yeah, I gotta learn that Hebrew. All right, good enough. All right, let's put it all together as one paragraph. See how it looks. Elohim makes sky and dirt, darkness over the deep, spirit over the waters, daylight divided from night dark, sky plate stretched to hold sky water over water, land separated from sea by water flow, grains, fruits, luminaries in heaven. Luminaries in heaven mark out day and night for appointments, days and years. God fashions the sun, moon, and stars into sky water plate, so they shine over earth and rule day and night, separating light from dark. Water swarms of hungry living swarmers. Flyers fly over earth and over sky plate. I'll say against sky plate. God created, Elohim, let's say, created sea monsters and all moving sea swarmers by type and all birds. And blessed, uttering, be fruitful. I can't improve that word. Fruitful is good. Become great in the seawater and birds on earth. All right. All right, we're almost at the hour mark. And I think that's a great place to pause. We got through verse 22. Had some fun looking at some Hebrew. Got a couple lurkers hanging. I'll be here Friday with some 30 to 45 minutes of news roundup of the week. Don't have a lot of topics yet. Got a couple interesting things. And I'll play the video right now that shows all those things. And I'm going to go hang out while I break down the green screen. I'll go check out Due Diligence and see how things are over there. So I'll see you guys there after the video, the outro video. It's been fun. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you Friday with co-host Angular. All right, here comes the outro. Bye. Thank you for spending time with us. We're joined on Fridays by co-host Angular. This has been G. Ross, and you are the underscore. Be sure to catch us on the foxhole.app, DLive, YouTube, or Facebook. Current shows include The Bread Pill Weekly. You've been red pilled, now be the red pill. You're out of the oven and ready for delivery on our weekly alternative news roundup and call-in show on Foxhole, DLive, YouTube, and Facebook every Friday at 5:30 p.m. Central, co-hosted by G. Ross and Angular. Current shows include Epistemology for Fun and Profit, where woo meets goo. You're in the woo, and the woo is in you. A philosophical call-in show with occasional guest interviews, diving into the oldest questions. Most episodes are exclusively on the foxhole.app, Sunday at 11:30 p.m. Central. Current shows include 9dNation, the nation with no denomination. Declare to the custom agents any edible plants or miscellaneous worldviews. We take a look back at how we got here, eventually leading into a regular Wednesday night Bible study at 11 p.m. Central. Catch us on the foxhole.app, DLive, YouTube, and Facebook. Our Friday co-host is Angular. This has been G. Ross, and you are the underscore.